Thank you for joining me today. Yesterday's announcement by U.S. Steel came as great news for our state, and the purpose of this news conference is to talk about the impact that announcement yesterday will have on the state of Arkansas, and to give a little bit more background. I'm joined, of course, by Secretary of Commerce Mike Preston. He and his team have done an extraordinary job in bringing this opportunity to closure and to success in a competition that we won. First, I want to go back in history a little bit, and while we're celebrating today the largest economic development project in the state's history as a $3 billion investment, and also a project that brings the largest payroll impact with 900 jobs, with the average wage being over $100,000. Those are extraordinary numbers in terms of the size of the project, in terms of the economic impact, in terms of the opportunity to change so many lives with greater economic opportunities. But if you look back in history, in the steel industry in our state, which we've become very proud of, Mississippi County lost Ecker Air Force Base, and whenever that happened, they subsequently lost 9,000 jobs in Mississippi County in the 90s. And I want to give a compliment to former Governor Bill Clinton, who helped recruit Nucor Steel into Mississippi County. And then subsequent to that, of course, we had Big River Steel during the Beebe administration with the First Amendment 82 project. Well, it just illustrates that governors build on each other. And now we've expanded Big River Steel. It's acquired by U.S. Steel, and U.S. Steel now announces this $3 billion investment that we competed for. And please note that we did compete for it. Secretary Preston will probably go into more details on this, but I do recall a call with David Burritt, the CEO of U.S. Steel, and I asked one of his partners where they were, and they were physically in the state of Alabama at that point. And obviously Alabama was competing for this, Mississippi was competing for it, and you don't win these projects without a great partnership, but also without having the best employees, the record, and a business-friendly environment that we demonstrated to them. And so I'm thrilled with the success of this. Not only do we have the direct jobs of 900 and an average wage of over $100,000, for every direct job, another 2.83 jobs are created in the supply chain and other ancillary jobs. They will all continue to benefit the state. Whenever you look at how we won this project, I want to talk about Mississippi County for a second, and maybe something that you're not aware of, and that is that Mississippi County saw 9,000 jobs lose in that area during the 90s, as I mentioned. As a result, they said, we're just not going to sit back and take this, and they passed a 1-cent economic development sales tax for the county. And as a result of that, they had funds to support the economic incentive packages that the state offered to expand the steel industry there. And as a result of their action and the commitment of Mississippi County, while they lost 9,000 jobs, they have recovered 5,000 jobs through the steel industry, through other businesses that have located there. But one thing that they've done to assist in making sure that we have 900 employees, but they have the best chance to work in Arkansas. Because historically we have people driving into the steel industry in Mississippi County from Dyersburg, Tennessee, or from Memphis. We want as many of them as possible to be located in Arkansas. And so they are offering 10% of the cost of a new home, up to $50,000 for employees that U.S. Steel hires under this project. That is an incredible incentive for location in Arkansas. Now, we get the benefit anyway because wherever they live with that income, they pay taxes here in this state. And so we get the benefit of the employment But this is an incredible opportunity for them to help strengthen our schools, with them to be physically located in the county. And so Mississippi County has been a great partner in this. And this initiative will be very helpful to locate families there in Northeast Arkansas. I want to thank the General Assembly because we called them together in special session. We asked them to pass the incentives that were necessary for this project, and it was a commitment that they made. They realized the importance of this, and without their support of these economic incentives, we could never win this project. We cannot change the culture and the opportunities in Northeast Arkansas, and which benefits the entire state. This will be the most advanced mill in North America. It will be economically friendly, and they have a goal of zero carbon production by 2050. And so this brings every ingredient that we need in industry in our state. And finally, whenever you look at what they're going to produce, the high manufactured technology, advanced steel, that is what is used in the automobile industry. And so this puts us in a better position to say to the automobile industry, locate in Arkansas, put your next manufacturing facility here. Look at the steel that we're producing, how close you would be to this production of steel in our state. So it's a great success story. I want to congratulate Mike Preston and his team again. And with that, Secretary Preston.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate those remarks and great overview of the steel industry and the importance it has here in Arkansas. And first of all, again, kudos to the team at AEDC and the entire Department of Commerce. I'd go through and list everyone on the team that had a hand in this project, but it would take just too long. So just know that everyone at AEDC and Commerce played an important role to make this happen. But really to our partners in economic development that we worked with in Mississippi County, and the Governor alluded to all that they've done to overcome the loss of jobs that they had in the 90s, and to really become a steel mecca for the country is just so important in the work that Cliff Chitwood and his team do there in Mississippi County. But then the partnership that we had with Entergy, who will be supplying them. This will be one of the largest customers in the entire Entergy footprint for them. So they had to really step up to the plate, and we're a great partner in this. Transportation, the BNSF Railroad was a big player, as they'll be servicing the mill as well. So many people were able to come together. And, when you look back at the Big River Steel original deal at 525 jobs at an average wage of $75,000 per year and a $1.3 billion investment. At the time, it was essentially the largest project we had ever seen in Arkansas, and it was the only time, or first time, we'd ever used the Amendment 82. But compare that and the success that they've had to where we are now, and that's now 900. So you're looking almost doubling those jobs, average wage over $100,000 a year, and over doubling that investment at $3 billion. The impact that that's going to have is so important and just critical. And I think back to the words that John Correnti, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but put that deal together originally with Big River Steel, talked about how Mississippi County and Arkansas was the place to be for a steel mill, that it all came together right there in that part in Mississippi County because of the river, because of the land, but ultimately because of the worker that we have in Arkansas and the workforce that we have, the partnership that we have with the two-year schools there in Northeastern Arkansas College, and the work that they've done with the Steel Academy. We can now train that workforce to get them ready to go into those steel mills and pay that high-paying job. But I do want to take you back through the little bit of the process and how it came together. And as the Governor said, we started out with a phone call with Dave Barrett, the CEO of U.S. Steel, and really want to highlight the Governor's involvement in this, because that first conversation we had took place in September, and it was with the Governor on the phone and with the CEO and the consultants that the U.S. Steel team had brought in to talk about this project. So from very early on, the Governor was engaged. We had a follow-up phone call later that month as they announced the search publicly. And as the Governor said, they looked at many states. I forget exactly how many, but I know it was dozens of sites that they looked at. They filed air permits in, I think, 5 different states. And ultimately it came down to the 3 that the Governor mentioned between Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas. and we were competitive to the very end, but you fast forward to those conversations in September, the work that was done through October and November leading up to a special legislative session to one, to cut taxes, but then two, to focus on this economic development project. And the General Assembly really stepped up in a matter of 2 days, passed a renewal and a reauthorization of the recycling tax credit, which would be advantageous to this, and then approved a transfer of funds into the Governor's Quick Action Closing Fund to be utilized for infrastructure in and around the facility. Because they gave us those tools and resources, it allowed us to present a very aggressive package to U.S. Steel, which ultimately helped us in bringing this deal together and coming in for a landing here on January 11th, as it was announced yesterday publicly by U.S. Steel. We still have the process to go to get to a shovel in the ground. They'd like to do that in the first quarter of 2022, which is exciting. It means they're going to move fast. A few steps still have to be approved. We're still finalizing the terms of the incentive agreement along with the clawbacks. It will be a part of that provision. The Public Service Commission in their review of Entergy and their deal there. Then also the Arkansas teacher retirement because of the authorization of those tax credits. So those are the steps that we have left to go, but hopefully we'll have that wrapped up here at the end of the month, allowing them to, and the air permit as well, which has been in process now for a couple of months. So once all those things are done, we look forward to them breaking ground and hopefully about a 2-year build-out period before they become operational, which in this day and age is extremely fast, but we're excited by it. But I fast forward to I guess it was last week when we sat down again with the CEO of U.S. Steel and his team with the governor, and we were on a Zoom conversation, and this CEO informed the governor that they had chosen Arkansas as their home for their new $3 billion investment. And then he said, the thing he said to the governor was that you've created a business-friendly environment in your state, and that made a difference. So the work that this governor and this legislature, the General Assembly have done in the last 7 years made a big difference. And when they were evaluating and analyzing states on where to go, the fact that we've lowered taxes, consistently done so, we've had a balanced budget, we've been able to utilize our surplus to put into restricted reserve funds. These are all things that a business who's getting ready to invest $3 billion will consider. And because of this groundwork that's been done, so much goes into an economic development project that, it gets overlooked. I don't want to overlook how important that was to this company to see what financial condition the state was in and what an impact that made. Obviously, then it took all the other pieces coming together, but that was something specifically that the CEO pointed out and something I'm very proud of, and it's going to allow us to continue to move forward. Again, my thanks to the General Assembly as well for working so quickly and allowing us to give us those tools and those resources to do so. But it's a great day when we can celebrate an additional $95 million in annual payroll coming into the state, and that's just the start. So with that, Governor, thank you for leading this effort and making this big win and this largest ever investment in the history of the state of Arkansas.
With that, we'll take any questions.
Governor, could you or Secretary President kind of walk through what all are the incentives the state is offering? Is it just the recycling credits and the $50 million for infrastructure, or does it go beyond that? And I know you said it's still being finalized, but what are you looking at in terms of clawbacks? And on the residents' part, is there going to be any kind of commitment, or are you seeking any kind of commitment from them that they hire from within Arkansas?
I'll let Secretary Preston address the incentives. I think you covered most of them. But in terms of the package for new residents that come in, 10% of the purchase price up to $50,000. That's an initiative separately by the county. It's not a part of the package itself. It's just their demonstration. We want you to live. We want you to understand that we have good schools, that we've got a great community, good quality of life. And so it's a marketing tool as well as a financial contribution to the purchase of a home there. And so, I think if there's any further details, they'd be happy to provide that.
That's a good summary, Governor and Andrew, that The recycling tax credit, really, it's most of these are performance-based, so it's upon them making the investment, and then that we go in and do the audit on that, and that will allow them to utilize that tax credit. The transfer of the funds into quick action closing fund, that's more on the infrastructure side, so that'll be some upfront costs that we'll associate with. The other ones are again, so just some performance-based ones related to create rebate, which is based on the payroll that comes in, and then tax back, which is based on their construction costs. So everything else will be on a performance-based system there. We do take into account when we look at this and we do our econometric modeling, people that are coming from outside of the state. So we refer to that as the leakage. It's actually smaller than we've looked at in the area before, because a lot of people are coming in and they're moving into the community. We do want to see that, but anyone who works at that mill is paying taxes in the state of Arkansas, so we take that into account. What the governor's alluding to and what Mississippi County has done, and that's their effort to bring more people into their county. Obviously, there's going to be people coming from all over the region. I'm sure folks from Jonesboro and other areas will be commuting over for these jobs. So that impact will hopefully stay right here in Arkansas. And as if you look through the legislation, it was, must yield a positive cost-benefit analysis to the state. So that means for every tax dollar that we put into the project, we're yielding at least a tax dollar back into state revenues. That doesn't count any local taxes that are collected. That's simply state dollars in and out. So it must have that positive cost-benefit analysis is what we run it on.
And do you know what that cost benefit is?
It's positive. That's something that's proprietary. We don't want to share what our secret information is on that for other companies to come in and be able to utilize from that.
And you probably can't say what the X figure is for total dollars in incentives.
Not until we have it. Well, and it'll be over time too, because it's performance-based. So we hope that they outperform what they've committed to, and that our incentives will go up because it's based on that performance. So a lot of it will come over the period of how they create those jobs. I can point back to the Big River Steel original deal. They're well above that 525 number and the 75,000 average wage. So I think that's probably why they're able to commit to such a higher wage, because they have performed so well in that first phase of Big River Steel.
You don't have a year like our payback is this year.
According to some of our modeling, our payback will come within at least the first 5 years. And a lot of that is because of, there'll be such an influx of construction jobs coming over the next 2 years to build it. You're looking at probably a minimum of 2,000 construction jobs, and those are temporary, so, not the permanent ones, but based on the income that comes in just on that alone will allow us to recoup our funds. And again, some of it is paid out over time because of the performance-based nature of our incentives, which is a great way to do incentives, and I'm pleased that we have those checks and balances in place.
What's the full economic impact that we're estimating once this thing is up and running, once you take into account some of those ancillary jobs, things of that nature?
Go ahead.
Well, I think what the governor, said that, high side, you look at it, it's 900 direct jobs that they're committing to at the mill, average annual wage of over $100,000. That translates into $95 million plus in annual payroll per year. But when you look at the multiplier, and what the governor said, it's 2.83 additional jobs in the region. So that could be anything from a supply chain to the increased activity around, additional vehicle sales or additional restaurant sales that go into that. So 2.3, you can do the math, that's an extra, 2,500 jobs directly impacted by this mill. Now, what we'll have to do as an economic development team is continue to partner with everyone that I mentioned in Mississippi County and Greene County and Craighead County and those areas to bring in suppliers, because there's going to be people who are naturally going to want to come into there to supply that. As the governor said, this is the highest end steel that's going to go into automobiles. It's going to go into the batteries that we're seeing in electric vehicles. So it's going to be upon us to then recruit those suppliers or those end users who would utilize that steel, and we now have this to our advantage because it's in our backyard. It's in Arkansas, and we have the workforce that knows how to do it and to get it done, and we have additional area, we have additional land and people in that area. So to me, the sky's the limit. We bring something in like this, and it's going to build completely around that.
I'll just add that the economic development team has to measure through a formula the return to the state, and Mike has gone through that. But what I also, you can't measure, but it's the intangibles. It is the success. It is the spurring the economy on in ways that you really can't measure. And I look back at Big River Steel, and when I became governor, they repaid the loan from the state like 15 years early. And so that just demonstrates that the steel industry is good, and the fact that Arkansas is going to play such an integral role in American-produced steel is pretty exciting for the state. It's one of those calling cards. And you think about national security issues, one of the challenges is the import of steel from across the globe. Well, the more we produce in Arkansas and here in the United States, it's an intangible that helps our entire country. Any other questions? Noel?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. I just wanted, you described it as a steel mecca, I think Mike did, and why would they not want to go there, even absent the incentives you gave them? They already have Big River Steel there. They already spent, over $1 billion to buy it. So they have experience there. They know what they're getting into. Just kind of.
In other words, if we had, in the absence of incentives,
Yeah, why
would
would they
they
not
come
want-
anyway?
Right.
And I think you look at this, first of all, what does Arkansas have to offer versus what Mississippi? In Mississippi, they have steel mills. You've got the Delta, you've got the river, you've got the same access to the interstate. In Alabama, you've got the Gulf Coast. So there's a lot that each individual state offers and can compete in. What we have is we do have the people who are experienced in steel production. You've got utility rates that are reasonable. You've got access to rail that's critically important, but other states offer many of those things as well. So incentives do play a role, and I think the fact is that Big River Steel would never have been there to begin with had we not have the incentive package and the legislature supported the Amendment 82 project. Do you have a question?
With this being the largest economic development project in state history, how does it compare to other large projects? Like do they come close or how do they compare in state history?
Well, I'll first, just from my experience, of course, we've had the Big River Steel that started in the previous administration. That was $1 billion. But the projects that are over $1 billion, you can, in our state, you can put on one hand. You can count on one hand. And so this is much higher in terms of its investment as well as the number of employees. Mike, you probably have looked at that.
Yeah, I'll just say that this investment, when you look at $3 billion, it's very rare that you hit a project that's $1 billion. This one coming in at $3 billion. I think I said previously before, with one of the largest was in the original Big River Steel, and it was 525 jobs. This is nearly double that, over double the investment. So, cumulatively over the years, like Nucor has probably built to this, but not at one time, a one-off project like this. We've seen some other ones that are very high on the job end in Northeast Arkansas, like Pico Foods, but you compare the wages there, the annual payroll impact is something that is, as the governor said, we just haven't seen something to this scale before.
Okay, any final question? Yes.
And now that you've got this project, did you have some other projects that you kind of mentioned, some of them like, kind of in your back pocket, was like, hey, let us get U.S. Steel, then we can start maybe negotiating with some of the other ancillary type of things?
Well, the answer is he's always got projects we're working on, and he's not going to announce them till later. Did you have anything?
We always have projects going.
All right, we had a question here.
What are your supply chain concerns with them looking to break ground so soon?
I'm sorry, with the supply?
Yeah, supply chain. They're looking to break ground this quarter, but there are still some supply chain issues affecting the whole nation.
Well, it doesn't stop you from starting. But also the steel industry has a unique supply chain, and these are some of the most experienced developers of steel mills, and so they've measured that, and I think they're ready to go. And so I think it's different than building a home. These are unique challenges or unique products in the steel industry that goes into it. Did you have anything else on that?
I just think, there's obviously a lot of groundwork that'll have to be done to get to that point. So now that we're here and announced, I know the company will start getting those in place. I'm sure that's an impact. It's something that's going to be factored in, but from the company's perspective, they want to do it now rather than wait longer when inflation goes up and the supply chain could tighten. They want to get that taken care of now, and then also because of the infrastructure legislation that was passed, there's going to be that need for additional steel throughout the country, and they want to be up and operational. So waiting certainly wouldn't make any sense. They want to push forward. Could impact it, but right now their anticipated time frame is 2 years. Obviously, weather and other things could come in and play a factor, but hopefully that won't be too much.
No.
Want to talk about how big of an area will the steel mill impact as far as ancillary jobs? Like an auto manufacturer, would they more likely to locate up in Mississippi County or Northeast Arkansas or Missouri, or would Little Rock be in there on their map?
Sure. If we attracted an OEM, an automobile manufacturer, they would look at multiple sites across the state because, you want to have access to the Texas market. You want to have access to both coasts. And so there's plenty of room to operate. It doesn't have to be within that geographic region close to the steel mills itself. And then also it's an issue of land. I mean, in any facility like that, you have to have probably 1,000 acres or more. And so, that limits as to where you can go. And that's why the local communities that have shovel-ready land that's ready to go, that can attract that. It could be Texarkana, it could be West Memphis, it could be Central Arkansas. The options are wide open there.
Is Mississippi County now the largest steel-producing county in the country?
It will be when this project is completed, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all very much, and Mike's available if you have anything to follow up on.